Hey, hello. I am Efrat and I am an art teacher. I have been also a university student here in Tokyo and I graduated from university. And I've been living here in Tokyo in Japan for 5 years. 5 years, which is crazy long time, I think. 5 years. My parents just left me a week ago after they visited me for the first time in those 5 years. They visited me here in Tokyo for about a month, almost a month they were here. So I showed them around Tokyo and we went to Kyoto and Osaka, and it was really great to show them around. It's been a dream for me to have my parents visiting here, and because it's hard to tell them on the phone to share the experiences without them actually being here and seeing some of the things and how it is. So I feel like now it's easier to share and we're more connected about where I'm living my life. We also went to Mashiko. Mashiko is a pottery ceramic town that is a bit north of Tokyo, and there were so many pottery stuff and so many artists making beautiful ceramics, and it was in the nature, the countryside. The countryside is where I love visiting the most in Japan, so I was really happy that my parents came on that trip of 3 days in Mashiko. I also got this mug there in Mashiko. There were many mugs I wanted to get, but I only got this because I didn't have space in my backpack, and also because I like the size of this mug. It's like big enough for me, and I like the roughness of the clay over here, and I like this blue very much. So yeah, I'm also going to start to teach ceramics myself pretty soon in the school I work at, and in order to do that I need to study many things about ceramics and clay myself. So I've been taking classes and making my own works, ceramic work. For example, one of them is here. It is a watercolor palette that I made, and I'm actually also using. So yeah, I'm looking forward to make many more ceramic items, and also I'm getting inspired by beautiful pieces like this one. What else is new? I've been living in a new apartment for about 2 months. I moved to a new apartment, this apartment. It's very small, but I love it. There are many reasons why I moved from my previous apartment that you saw in my other video. I only lived there for about 8 months and then I had to move. Maybe I will explain why I moved in a different video, but this apartment is it's in a much more central area of Tokyo. This is the first time I live in such a central area. My previous places were either really far away from the city or in the outskirts of Tokyo. So living in the center of the city is a new thing for me. For me specifically, it will take a while, I think, to get used to it because I'm not a city girl. However, I'm discovering that there are many joys and wonderful things about living in the center of Tokyo. And this is what this video is about. I'm gonna talk about 5 joys that I have, 5 joys about living in Japan, and 5 struggles that I have while living in Japan. And I'm going to try to align them next to each other, kind of, to each joy will speak with a struggle. I'm not sure if this is the right way to say this, but because life is a composition of light and dark, you have to experience some challenges and struggles in order to experience some happy moments, joy and empowering moments. That's just life, and I'm sure that's life anywhere you're going to live. It's not only special for Japan, but I'm going to talk about Japan. So, without further ado, let's talk about 5 joys about living in Japan and 5 struggles. So, the first point I would like to mention here is the feeling of safety. Safety in a sense that I feel like I can do anything, I can go anywhere, so I would like to combine this point with traveling also. As a woman, I never lived in a place where I can just walk around, go on a train, go anywhere without feeling too self-conscious about it, without looking around me too much. So I'm talking about how I can just walk the streets at night without feeling stressed or nervous or anything like this, where in other places I lived, it's a very different thing. It's a very different experience, especially as a woman, I think. So I can walk here in Tokyo at night, I can take the train and go to the countryside, to the inaka, to villages, and I feel that I can walk there at night also. And I climbed mountains at night. My friend Nadine is often my companion for these kind of trips, and we've been to all sorts of places at night as two women. And I know Japan is not perfect in this regard, and I know there are a lot of issues here with chauvinism and women who have different experience than I have, but I compare it to some other places that I lived in, and it's just that's how I feel. And this feeling of safety is so very joyful. It's so very joyful, it's freeing, and it's just very precious to me. Alongside that feeling of safety, I'm going to align the struggle. The struggle is city life, stressful city life. Now, this point is maybe not a struggle for everyone, but for me, certainly it is. To be surrounded by millions of people all the time, and especially now where I moved right now, this area, I mean, the area where my apartment is relatively quiet, but if you take a few steps a bit farther, there are millions of people around you at all times. And for me, it is a big struggle. I get very nervous and uncomfortable around big crowds, It's something that I've noticed during my first year here in Tokyo in Japan, but I thought I will get used to it. And I've been here for 5 years already, and I have not gotten used to it. But each time I'm around many people in like crowded train station, the main train stations here in Tokyo, the Shinjuku, Shibuya, Ikebukuro, these kind of train stations, and there are just so many millions of people walking in all directions, all around you. I get nervous, it's hard to breathe, and I need a break. I need to step away. I don't know if you can hear the sounds of the city are just below my apartment here. There's like police or something. But it's okay, because here in my apartment I'm like above. I'm above the city in a nest. Can you hear it? So, but the moment I step out of my nest, I'm in the crowds, and for me it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and I don't think I will ever get used to it. And also I find ways to avoid the hectic, crowded train stations, especially during rush hours. But this is one of the main reasons I moved from where I lived, because I had to take the train during rush hour every morning for the past year, and it was extremely difficult for me to be on the train every morning when there are millions, what seems like millions of humans just pushing me around. So here and there, when I get an opportunity, I go on a trip outside of the city, to the mountains, to the forest, to a small village, and then I come back more energized and happier. The next joyful point I would like to make is food. Food is very important, as you may know. So I love Japanese food, and I'm trying new dishes and new foods very often. And I feel like Japanese cuisine is just there's so much going on in it. It's a lot more than sushi or ramen. Each area, each part of Japan has like its own kitchen, its own cuisine. There are many foods that people who first come to Japan or people abroad are not familiar with. There are a lot of different soups mushrooms, all sorts of fruits and vegetables, especially vegetables, root vegetables that are unique to this land, and that I'm always curious to try, especially when I go outside of the city, outside of Tokyo. There are all sorts of ways to cook fish, to cook your rice, but I'm very happy about trying Japanese dishes and cuisines because it's often very healthy and very good for your body, and you can feel it. However, and this is my struggle that I'm going to align with it, you know, sometimes you miss foods from home that you simply cannot find, or it's a struggle to find, or you cannot find as much as you would back home. In my case, it has to do a lot with all sorts of fruits and vegetables and the availability of certain fruits and vegetables that I used to eat back in Israel, and here it's much harder to either find them or to pay for them. Even though, and I'm gonna quickly go back to the positive and joyful part, here in Tokyo there are so many kinds of supermarkets and all sorts of small shops you can get food, and sometimes if you know where to go, you can get fruits and vegetables quite cheap. So if you know where to go, there are some supermarkets that are much cheaper than the others. With all the variety that Tokyo has, and Tokyo has so many different restaurants and so many cuisines from like other kitchens, from like worldly, other cultures' kitchens, but still it's hard sometimes. For example, I was walking with my dad in Kyoto and we were very hungry and it was super hot, and we just wanted to get into a restaurant, get into anywhere to just rest from the heat, but also eat, because we were walking around for so long, for the whole day. We were very hungry, but we couldn't find everything around us in like kilometers for every direction, and was just like, you know, Japanese cuisine sometimes has like you order food, you can order small portions of fish, small portion seaweed, small portion of rice cooked with something in like small bowls. So this kind of restaurants were like all around us, but they seem to be like the only thing. And my dad was like saying, can we just get shawarma somewhere? Can we just get sabich somewhere? Can you give me a sabich? Like, just give me something to stuff myself with and feel satisfied, you know? So yeah, I often walk around here and I don't have like food that I crave from back home. It sometimes also it belongs to a different point that I will make later, but you know, food is also culture. So sometimes during the holidays, my holidays, the Jewish holidays, I don't have the foods that we usually eat, and then it just mixed with the feeling of missing out. I'm missing out on the celebratory atmosphere, I'm missing out on the holiday, so I miss out things that I used to celebrate and to be part of growing up, and this can be a very hard thing sometimes. The next point is kind of related to the previous one, and it's gonna be culture, Japanese culture. I get to learn a lot about Japanese culture while living here, and I love Japanese art, I love paper making, I love printmaking, I love sumi ink, calligraphy, I like Japanese ceramics, I like the wrapping culture of omiyage, of small gifts. I like everything that is made of wood, the shrines, the temples. There are many things about Japanese culture that I love, that I loved from before, that my love for is just growing basically during these 5 years. And I feel very, very lucky that I'm surrounded by it, and I can just go and learn more about it on any day and any time I wish to. I'm going to align this with the struggle of missing out on my own culture. And when I say my own culture, it's an interesting thing, because as I'm missing out on my own culture, I feel like I'm getting more and more close and connected to it, because the absence of my own culture in a way makes me realize what it is. It's a very interesting process that I'm going through, that I'm sure many people who have been living abroad, who have been living away from their family or their culture, are very familiar with it also. So I miss the Jewish holidays, I miss certain foods, I miss Shabbat in every week. I miss sitting with the family. I miss my language. The language embodies many cultural aspects, like certain items, songs, or matter of speech. I think language embodies a whole way of living, a certain way of living. And the Jewish holidays also mean a specific kind of calendar of the year, like specific kind of way to count the days, count the month, and celebrate them. And it's just not around me at all. So by that not being around me, I become my own compass of it, which is a big responsibility. And it's also, even though I put it as a struggle, it's a joy. It's also a joy. Next on the list is convenience. Convenient things in Japan. It's a very convenient place to live in. For me, there are many things that I consider convenient. A lot of it has to do with transportation. The fact that I can just go on the train and transit and change trains and go to a bus and just get anywhere like this, quite at ease. And I reached to a point where it is very easy for me, and I know what needs to be done, and I can find my way quite efficiently in Tokyo, and not only in Tokyo. It's also not so expensive compared to other countries. Also, you can find many convenient stores, the konbinis, all over every street. You have a few of them. You can get something to eat, you can get something to drink. I'm a person who loves tea. I love tea. I drink a lot of tea. I go to the konbini, I get a drink, I get it from the vending machines. Yeah, I never drink soda or like sweet stuff from the vending machines, but when I get the green tea, the hojicha, the rice tea, I'm all set. I'm all set, no sugar. It's even, as people say, it's good for you. I don't think there's any other place on earth where I can get so much tea the way I do, and so cheap, and it's so oishi, so delicious. I will align this point with, of course, the very inconvenient part of being a foreigner in Japan, and that is for me the language, the Japanese language, which I have been studying for quite a long time, but I'm struggling with the Japanese language. And for me it comes to term with, like, for example, I moved to this new apartment. I had so many issues to take care of. I had to call the gas company, the water bill company, the internet. I had to cancel them in my previous apartment and install them here in my new apartment. I had to go to the bank to change my address. I had to call the moving company to come to make a deal with me to take all of my things from the old apartment to the new apartment. I had to call the furniture recycle company to take care of some of my furniture that I want to get rid of. I had to sign a contract. I had to find to be approved by the landlord. I had to, so many things that up until now, 3 months later, I'm still taking care of. And it's all in Japanese. It's all in Japanese, which means each time before I have to speak on the phone or I pick up the phone, I'm nervous, I'm sweating, and very often I don't know what people want from me. I don't understand. Sometimes the dictionary doesn't help me, the apps don't help me. I am dependent. I'm dependent on some good people who are sometimes willing to help me, and even people who are kind enough to make the phone calls for me, because I'm so nervous. But then I somehow do it. I do make the phone call, and I do sign the papers, and I send the papers, and then I feel so proud of myself and so satisfied. But then I need to do all of these things again, because life, you know, just keep happening. Those things, they never end. They never end. Alright, so the next and last joy for today is the people, the humans, the people of Japan. People here are overall very kind, very yasashi, very polite. They have manners. In general, the society here is very, there's order. There's order. People, you know, people don't push you in line. People are listening to you with respect, bowing with respect, and many aspects that are extremely different from where I come from, and are much better here. And I enjoy this. I treasure it even. Also, when people speak to each other on the train, they're minding their voice to be quiet. And this is also very unique to Japan, because I'm sure you know in many other countries it's definitely not the situation. So there is like an awareness here in Japan. People have awareness to each other as a society, and understanding that in order for the place we live in to be pleasant and good to be living at, we all have a shared responsibility for the space. But there are also people here who are not so welcoming to foreigners. I feel like I have to mention it. I don't want to say that they are not welcoming to foreigners, maybe more like a bit concerned about approaching foreigners, which in my personal opinion about it is that all people on the planet, they all belong to certain groups, and it's easier for us to relate to people who are similar to us. And it's very unusual and rare when you can step out of this box, and most people don't. I personally don't blame people for this, because I think it's not obvious. It's not an obvious thing to do, to extend your honest welcoming to people outside of your main group. A lot of people here never traveled or never seen or spoken with someone who isn't Japanese, or are not speaking any other language that is not Japanese. So I don't think we can expect them to right away be my friends and right away be more welcoming to me on a deeper level than just being polite. Now this brings me to the struggle. So my struggle is that I feel like a lot of people that I met here, they're very nice and polite on the surface, but then it's hard for me to create like deeper connections and deeper conversations, just go deeper. And sometimes that's what my soul needs. When people are having a conversation, whatever your Japanese level is, people tend to talk about very on the surface kind of topics. They want to keep the conversation on the positive side and smooth. So people here talk often about food or weather, and weather is a big one, I think. Like, oh, it's hot, it's cold, the clouds. Which sometimes I enjoy this. Sometimes I enjoy this, but sometimes I just want, you know, to speak on a deeper level about things. Another thing that comes to mind right now is that people usually don't invite here to their home. It's kind of unusual to invite people to your home and show them your house. Where I come from, it's a very natural, the most common thing to be doing, I think. And you don't need to like schedule this too much in advance. You just like, come see my house, come eat dinner with us. You eat together. It's very basic, but here it's kind of unusual to invite people to your house. I invited some people to my house and to dinner and stuff, and they've been talking about it later. Wow, that was special. I'm not sure why it was so special, and maybe it's a Tokyo thing, I don't know. So there's some very profound cultural differences that I find sometimes. And that's it for this video for today. I hope you enjoyed me sharing about my 5 joys in Japan and 5 struggles. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!